This is one of my favorite ways to decorate envelopes and create note cards for snail mail. All you need is acrylic paint, your envelopes or paper. I'm using watercolor paper. You can also use mixed media paper so that it takes the acrylic paint well. Then I also just have a piece of cardboard, and this is a paint scraper that I got at the hardware store. But if you just have cardstock or cardboard, you can definitely use that to move your paint around. So let's get started. For the note cards, I'm using this Canson watercolor paper. It's 9 by 12, 140 pounds, and it's heavyweight, so it takes the paint well. So I like using that when I'm creating these painted note cards. And what I want to do is I'm going to put the paint on this piece of paper whole, and then once the paint dries, I'm going to cut it out. And the way that I'm visualizing this is put paint here and here. So these will be like the edges of each note card, and also paint around the border here. The first thing you want to do is pick your paints. So I like the Liquitex Basic acrylics. They're a little bit thicker though, so I also like using these Craft Smart. This is really old and I keep refilling it, but these Craft Smart paints are a little bit thinner, so it's easy to move around. And I like picking a colorway and sticking with just a couple colors. I really like black and white, so I also mixed some gray so that I have a third color. And all I'm going to do is just put dabs of the paint on the areas that I want to create a border. So again, this is just, really random, and just have fun with it. And it's okay if it's a little bit messy. I'm just putting dots on here because what we're going to do is we're going to be using our scraper to mix these paints up. And don't want to waste any paint, so I'm adding it here. But I'm putting the paint here, and then there's going to be enough extra to go on the edges. Okay, so I just added some paper underneath because we are definitely going to be going past the paper, and I just want to make sure that it doesn't make a mess. And I'm already kind of making a mess. I'm already getting paint on my fingers. And all I'm going to do is start scraping the paint. And I just think it's so much fun how it mixes and you don't know how it's going to turn out. And I do try to make it flat because you are going to be putting this in an envelope. So I'm going to try my best to kind of spread the paint around, and there's going to be some texture and some bumps. But if I can, I'm going to try to kind of smooth some of that out. And this is fun to do, especially if you like abstract art and just making marks. So I actually like doing this with any paint that I have that's extra from another project that I have. Sometimes you mix too many colors and you just don't want to waste it. So this is a fun way to use it. And then what I like to do is add some splatters. I'm just going to add some black. I feel like a lot of it mixed and I kind of want to have some more black in here. So I'm just going to flip over to the other side. And just even it out a little bit where there's not a lot of black. I'm just going to add some. And I know this looks messy, but I promise when you cut it out, it becomes really cool and it has a cool abstract border. So I'm going to set this aside to dry. And in the meantime, we can make our envelopes. So it's basically the same idea. And I'm going to keep on using this colorway. And the envelopes are a little bit thinner, so I try not to put like too much paint on there. And I might even put the paint on my palette first instead of putting it directly on so I can dab it a little bit better. And then this time I'm going to use my paint scraper. Okay, so there's one envelope. Now I have my bigger envelope. Okay, it can get a little bit messy, or if you're like me, you just happen to always get paint on your hands. So just be careful of that and put it somewhere clean to dry. It's the next day and our paper has dried. So now we're ready to cut it. I'm going to be using my paper cutter. I love this Rototrim. It is a little bit of an investment, but if you do a lot of crafting, have a card business or paper business, I really recommend getting one of these. It's lasted me a long time, so I think it's really worth it. If you don't have a paper cutter, what I recommend is drawing in pencil lines on the back and then cutting it along the back. So here's how it looks all trimmed up. So you have a nice border and then you have space to write your note. I'm going to go ahead and finish trimming these other guys. Here are our finished note cards. And so you can decide what orientation you want to use, this way, that way. And I just love the different random designs. And it just adds a little bit of something. I also think this is a great way to use up extra paint so that you don't waste it. And then it becomes something useful that you can snail mail to somebody. I even really like all these scraps of the cut paper. So sometimes I'll save these in case I want to use it for something. I don't know what, but maybe for weaving, maybe to add in a collage. I also made another piece that is meant to be cut into 5x7 because that's the other envelope size I have. Here's one, and you can use it this way, or maybe it makes more sense for you to use it with the paint on the top. So now we also have some 5x7 size note cards. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial and that this is something that you can try with some extra paint lying around, or if you just want to experiment and have fun making some marks and creating some abstract note cards. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.